Okay, so we're only 2 days away from election day, and I thought it'd be a fun idea to maybe this isn't the best idea for the channel, but I thought it'd be a fun one to end this election cycle by talking about companies and obviously their stocks that I think may benefit from either a Trump or Biden administration. So we're gonna do back-to-back videos today and tomorrow talking about exactly that. And we're going to be starting with 5 stocks that I think may benefit from a Biden administration. We'll do that today. And then tomorrow, we'll do another video and we'll talk about 5 other stocks that I think may benefit from a Trump administration. Quick disclaimer though, I'm not saying that these stocks are guaranteed to perform well. Obviously, the economy is still really struggling. There's craziness going on all over the world. So the market can still crash at any moment, or we can at least continue to see wild volatility. But what I am saying is that over the long term, these are companies that I think can benefit from certain policies that the 2 administrations may implement. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I think it's a fun idea. Please don't hit the dislike button just because you hate the candidate that I'm talking about either today or tomorrow. All that does is tell YouTube that you hate me and you hate my channel. And so that tells the algorithm to pretty much suppress and hurt my channel. So please hit the like button if you do like me or the channel and you like my bipartisan and unbiased videos. And that really helps me put out more videos for you guys in the future. Okay, now with that said, let's get started. Now, under a Biden administration, and by the way, I did do a video of Trump versus Biden for the stock market, and we went into greater detail on the different policies. So if you want to watch that, just find it on the channel. But under a Biden administration, I do think that there are specific areas that would benefit the most. And in my opinion, this would involve very heavy spending on things like healthcare, infrastructure, and of course, renewable energy. I also think that in contrast to something like Trump, Biden, I think, would be more likely to get along with China. And I also think that if we don't get the global health crisis under control, or if it does kind of get worse, I think Biden is the one that would be in favor of further lockdowns or at least restrictions in hopes of getting control of the pepperoni. So with some of those things in mind, let's go ahead and run through the list. Okay, now in no particular order, let's count down from stock number 5 and kick things off with a healthcare related company called Teledoc, ticker symbol TDOC, which is the largest telemedicine company in the United States. Now, with the pepperoni lockdowns, many hospitals have been keeping people home and meeting with them virtually through telephone and internet-based services, of which Teledoc is famous for providing. And if things happen to get worse with the global health crisis, doctors will likely want to keep those that are infected at home, as well as anyone with chronic illnesses that put them at much greater risk of suffering from the pepperoni. As such, Teledoc has seen their sales skyrocket this year and are expected to see growth of almost 80%, with another nearly 40% next year as well. But all of this isn't just due to the pepperoni, which in my opinion has only accelerated the inevitable future we're heading towards, where the healthcare market looks to lower costs and improve patient convenience and quality of life by offering virtual visits. Even health insurers tend to prefer these as well, since they're generally cheaper options than something like in-office visits. Hence why Teledoc has actually been growing their sales by huge amounts in previous years, even before the global health crisis even started, like 89% growth in 2017 and 79% growth in 2018. And there's even more reasons to think that growth will likely continue over the long term, given that they just recently announced an acquisition of Livongo Health for close to $20 billion, who specializes in helping patients with chronic illnesses by collecting their data and using artificial intelligence to send tips and advice for them, like, for example, to eat healthier foods for their conditions or to take the right tests and medications at the right times. In any case, those type of services really complement Teledoc's business extremely well, and most analysts and publications are really praising the deal as a very successful long-term growth driver that will impact the entire landscape. Don't forget, Livongo was bringing in gigantic revenue growth themselves, usually by around 100% or more. Last year alone, for example, was growth of 150%. That's very impressive. Unfortunately, none of this growth or success comes as a surprise to anyone in Wall Street, who's been bidding up the stock by almost 900% in just the past 5 years alone. They're also not currently profitable, having lost about $100 million last year and trade for a PS ratio of over 19. So the stock is definitely considered very expensive at the moment. Still, over the long term, and especially under a Biden administration, don't be surprised if Teledoc performs even better. Biden will want as many people receiving healthcare as possible, and lowering costs to give those people access to it may give Teledoc a major boost. Not a stock that I own myself, but one that I would like to buy if they ever experience a large drop. Okay, now one stock that I do actually own myself that I also think could see their business benefit greatly from a Biden administration would be Tesla, ticker symbol TSLA, at stock number 4 on the list. And it's no secret that Democrats are really obsessed with climate change, and whether you agree with their solutions or not, one of them is to electrify vehicles on a massive scale. In fact, liberal California recently announced that they'll be banning the sale of new gas vehicles by 2035 in favor of zero-emission EVs. As such, many analysts predict that EVs will overtake traditional ICE vehicle sales by around the same time. Well, it just so happens that Tesla is currently the market leader in fully electric vehicles and will therefore be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, beneficiary from all of that growth. In fact, according to Electric, Tesla commanded an absolutely massive over 80% market share of United States EV sales in the first half of this year, and that's even despite them losing their federal tax credit subsidies that many of their competitors still offer. And much of that dominance will likely continue given the recent launch of the Model Y, the upcoming Cybertruck, which I have pre-ordered myself, the Semi, which I also have pre-ordered. I'm just kidding, I don't have that. I wish I had that pre-ordered. The new Roadster, which I'll probably have to borrow from Jeremy, and they've even announced the development of a much cheaper mass market vehicle priced at around $25,000, which Forbes predicts will spell doom for gas vehicles. Not to mention that Tesla is also a huge play on the future of energy storage, all of which will help Tesla keep the gigantic growth coming after already being projected to grow sales this year by 26% and then another 40% plus the year after as well, despite still climbing out of one of the worst macroeconomic disasters of our lifetime. Of course, the stock is already high at the moment, as is usually the case with Tesla, but even around these prices, I don't think it's that bad of a long-term investment, and a Biden administration, and honestly, even a Trump one, will likely mean even better performance for Tesla stock over the long term. Alright, now moving on to stock number 3. Like I said before, I think Biden would be friendlier with China and may also be more open to lockdowns if he feels they're necessary, and under that context, I think something like Alibaba, ticker symbol BABA, could be a major beneficiary as they are not only the largest e-commerce company in China with close to 800 million customers, but they also sell internationally as well with over 180 million customers abroad, where they even operate in the United States, for example, with their AliExpress site, which by the way, a lot of businesses even buy from Alibaba and then sell on Amazon. So it's really not just a Chinese play, although that is obviously their biggest market. In any case, Alibaba has been on a tear in recent years, often growing sales by around 30% or more. Like Amazon, they also have a commanding presence in cloud computing, which has only become an even more important market during the pepperoni lockdowns, and Alibaba already commands the 3rd largest market share globally and number 1 largest market share in the Asia Pacific region as well, and yet they still managed to grow that segment by over 60% last year. Back to e-commerce though, China's market size is around 3 to 4 times larger than the United States, and yet Alibaba's market cap is only around half of Amazon. So I just think there's plenty of room for the stock to keep growing. Obviously, Amazon would also be a big beneficiary from a Biden administration as well, but Alibaba looks like it might be the cheaper option at today's prices. It has been red hot over the past 5 years, climbing by over 260% already, but I still think that over the long term, this is a company and a stock that will continue to perform very well. By the way, I do currently own both Amazon and Alibaba stocks myself. Okay, now moving on to stock number 2. Like I said before, a Biden administration will obviously focus very heavily on renewable energy. And there are really few companies that can match the large-scale power generation from renewable sources that Brookfield Renewable Partners, ticker symbol BEP, is known for, as they control a massive over 5,300 different power generating facilities consisting of hydroelectric, solar, and wind power generators. One of the great things about Brookfield too, though, is that they're not just dependent on the United States. So while one might argue that Democrat leadership would benefit them more than maybe a Republican one, at the end of the day, this is a company that should perform well under any United States conditions, given that they're much more of a global company than many of their competitors. In fact, their operations in North America, South America, Europe, India, and China have helped them grow their capacity from just 3 gigawatts in 2015 to over 18 gigawatts this year. And because BEP is a master limited partnership, they receive special tax benefits that help them retain more cash. On top of that, over 95% of Brookfield's contracts are long-term, with an average length of 14 years, meaning that many of their prices have already been set and are therefore mostly protected from short-term macroeconomic declines or lower energy demand. They're also well diversified, with their largest non-government customer only representing 2% of their energy generation. All of this translates to strong cash flows that in turn help them pay a meaningful dividend that currently yields over 3%, has grown every year for the past decade, and carries a payout ratio of only around 40%. Unfortunately, the stock is trading at a record high after skyrocketing this year, likely due to the acquisition of Terraform Power along with the rest of the renewable energy market, probably taking off in anticipation of a Biden victory that may or may not actually happen. So I definitely wait for it to pull back before jumping in. But again, over the long term, it's hard to see anything other than a bright future for a renewable energy company like this. And finally, for our last stock on the list, we're going to go with a little bit of a more boring but still pretty reliable long-term stock, and that is SherwinWilliams, ticker symbol SHW, who is obviously famous for their sales of paint and coatings. And there's a few reasons why I think that a Biden administration could actually benefit a company like this. First of all, Biden is going to spend a ton of money on infrastructure. In fact, his economic plan calls for $7.3 trillion in total spending, of which a massive $2.4 trillion will go straight to infrastructure. Now, obviously, a lot of that is going towards renewable energy initiatives, but even that will involve upgrading and remodeling buildings, not to mention that the plan in general calls for more manufacturing in America, which would benefit Sherwin's performance coating division, as well as the building of over 1.5 million different buildings, homes, and public housing units to address affordable housing issues throughout the country, which will also require large amounts of paint, obviously. Now, on top of that, the economic plan also calls for a $15,000 first-time home buyer tax credit that should entice even more people, especially those that struggle to come up with a down payment, to go out and purchase new homes. Not to mention that rock bottom interest rates, rock bottom interest rates that we have right now make it even easier to purchase homes by reducing mortgage costs, although that also tends to raise home prices, but overall it could still lead to even more demand. Either way, if all of this spending that Biden proposes doesn't hurt the economy but instead actually stimulates it, then we could see Sherwin-Williams experience a significant uptick in purchases, which they've already started to experience even with all of the pepperoni lockdowns, as people were actually forced to stay home, and a lot of them decided to do like home remodeling projects, while others have also taken advantage of the low rates to make new home purchases. In fact, last quarter, sales in their consumer brands group skyrocketed by over 23% year over year. Now, that's actually their smallest segment, and other parts of their business are still struggling this year. So total sales only increased by about 5% in the quarter, but it was still big enough to boost, to help, or at least help boost their operating cash flows by almost 65%. That's pretty high. And that's really the story of Sherwin-Williams, is that very solid profitability over the years, which you can see on this chart here showing their free cash flow, and that they use some of that money to also pay out a dividend that has grown every single year for the past 40 years in a row. I know Seeking Alpha only says 21 there, but it's actually 40 years. Unfortunately, that dividend yield is tiny at only 0.8%, so a lot of people don't even think about the dividend. But with a payout ratio of only 22% and a 15% 5-year growth rate, it'll very likely continue to grow larger well into retirement for anyone owning the stock. And it's really just a nice little bonus on a stock that usually performs well anyway, as it's more than doubled over the past 5 years alone. It's a stock that trades very high right now, so I'd like to wait for a significant pullback before even thinking about jumping in. But I think over the long term, they'll still perform well even if Biden loses. Anyway, those are the companies that I think can benefit from a Biden administration over the long term. Let me know if you agree with the list or if there are other companies that you think would benefit even more, other stocks out there. And keep in mind that we're going to be doing Trump tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that video as well. I hope you guys enjoyed it though. Make sure you hit the like button if you are enjoying the channel and you want to support me. And I hope you're all doing well out there, and I hope you all take care. I'll catch you in the next one. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.